Hello, friends. I'd like to address a term or a phrase that we use in English occasionally. And the phrase is a rule of thumb. Like your thumb is roughly, this in relation to something else, and you can measure something with your thumb. You can hold your thumb out at a certain distance and it tells you something. But in our actual parlance, what we mean by that is that this is a shortcut. This is a quick way of understanding. There's a more common phrase now. It's a little odd because it's like if you a studying hack. The word hack has kind of replaced the rule of thumb phrase a little bit. A shortcut to studying, a quick way of understanding this or the other thing. I remember when I was in college, I had a friend who was very, very good at math, and I was too, but I had skipped a grade in high school, and so when I got to calculus, I didn't have the underpinning of a year worth of school in high school to back it up, and so I was kind of jumping into the deep end of calculus very quickly there. And I remember one morning after breakfast, she explained differential equations to me in about 15 or 20 minutes, and there were a lot of rules of thumb. There were a lot of, shortcuts because she understood calculus inside out and backwards. And I can't say that it all stuck. I can say that I at least conceptually understand what a differential equation is. How I would operate one is a different question now. But anyway, back to my rule of thumb that I'd like to talk about today. I discovered something interesting about nutrition labels. And I personally found it very helpful. Whether you will or not is a different question, but there is a big number on the label, and this is by design, the way nutrition labels are designed in the grocery store and wherever you are buying something food-wise that has a label on it describing the ingredients and all the elements that are in there. How much protein does it have? How much sodium does it have? How much fat, carbohydrate, sugars, vitamin C, whatever it may be. There are many things are listed on that nutrition label, but there's one big number that sticks out, and they want it to stick out because it is the calories per serving. Now, a serving of whatever it may be can be anything. But I've noticed because I occasionally make a study of nutrition labels and look at a wide variety of them, and I have often seen that an ounce is 1 ounce, meaning 28.4 grams, is a common size of a serving, especially for the more calorie-dense kinds of things. You'll seldom find a serving size less than an ounce. Occasionally you might. You will certainly fairly frequently find serving sizes that are bigger than an ounce when something is relatively calorie undense, not concentrated. And that number is an interesting number because the number can tell us something that we need to know, which is if something is calorie dense, and by calorie dense, I'm going to suggest if it's 130, 40, 50, all the way up to 170 calories per ounce, which is about the limit because oil and sort of pure fat are about at that range. Pay attention because you don't necessarily need a lot of it in your diet, and it can add up very, very quickly. Nuts and seeds are kind of in that category. They're very good, they're very healthy, but it doesn't take a lot to go a long way. And other things that are pretty dense calorically that are not necessarily all that helpful, which include a lot of processed food, boy, it can add up quickly and without really even thinking about it. And those things are often designed to taste really, really good. So I say that because I have started noticing, if you pick up a bag of celery, or if you can find a bag of apples or something where they'll actually list how many calories are in an apple or how many calories are in just a vegetable like zucchini or something, you'll find often that they can't get very many calories into a serving, and they'll often extend the size of a serving accordingly. A serving will end up being, 3-4 ounces, and still it'll only be 30 calories. That big number on the label will be 30 calories or 50 calories or 10 calories. I've even seen 5 calories. I mean, so often the things that are calorically not concentrated are actually nutritionally full of nutrients. And it often works the other way as well. Often the really dense things, your donuts and your kind of junk food. But even some of the things that are good to eat, like olive oil, yes, it has wonderful qualities as oil, but it doesn't have much of anything else. It doesn't have protein, and it doesn't have carbohydrate, and it doesn't have a lot of other things as well. I say all this because I am just learning to be aware of that number. And whenever that number is north of 130, I watch now. I'm much more conscious and much more careful about how much of it I consume, because I've noticed that it's really, really easy to put on weight, and it's relatively difficult to take it back off. So I suggest that not because I'm a nutritionist and not because I'm trying to be your doctor or tell you what to do, but I am saying that I've noticed that culturally we have access to things that are dense calorie-wise that we never used to have 100 years ago, 200-300 years ago. It just didn't exist. Okay, yes, it is possible if you had a cow and you had excess milk, you could churn butter out of it or make cheese out of it. But those things were pretty valuable because it took a lot of milk, a lot of ingredients. There's a lot of grass chewing that went into making that pound of butter. And nowadays, those things are just common. You can go to the grocery store and buy gallons of oil that's just pure fat, just pure calories in a way of looking at it. And those things that was not so common 100 years ago or more. So we're consuming a lot more of that. And you can draw your own conclusions about that. But it's just something to be aware of and tune into in your own life to whatever degree you feel in tune with that. Namaste.